Well, welcome to our October Peloton. I feel like the month of October has just flown by, and I'm sure the rest of the year will. So thanks for joining us today. Just a couple of housekeeping things before I turn it over to our presenter today. But I want to give a quick update where we're at in the year with a few months left. It's been an incredible year for so many of our affiliates across our network. Nearly $9 million has been granted out of funds associated with our affiliate partners this year. It's an incredible amount of resources supporting Iowa communities across the state. So super proud of that. I think we're probably trending a little bit ahead of last year. And we're definitely trending ahead in terms of generosity. Just over $24 million has been received by our affiliate partners in 2021. So just an incredible amount of positive conversations happening with Iowans and Iowa organizations. So kudos to all of you and all the hard work you do to make those connections. And because of so much success you have all had these last few years, we're also very excited to announce that we are bringing on a new partner to our team. Katie Getting will be our donor relations coordinator. I'm not charitable giving coordinator. Sarah's looking at me like that's not the right title, but she will be working both with our fund holders and donors here in Des Moines, as well as providing support to our affiliate team across the network. She'll be managing the grant making programs that you all have, ensuring that those grants receive the proper due diligence and those checks get back to you. She'll be providing some support for manage my fund and fund holder services. So it'll be a great way to support the affiliate team and allow Rebecca and myself to continue to get out in your communities and help you all meet the goals that you have. So Katie's coming to us starting Monday, and she was most recently with Ryman Gardens in Ames. And then before that with Living History Farms. So she has a ton of experience working with people from all across the state. So we're really excited to have her with us. And we'll kind of share more as time goes on, you know, when do you connect with her and what ways she can support your work. That's kind of our housekeeping items for today. Outside of, we did just get word, and Rebecca will have this in the upcoming affiliate link, but the Iowa Council of Foundations is bringing back the boot camp that the Indiana Philanthropy Alliance provides to Iowa community foundations. They've been kind of like on an every other year rhythm, and that will be held virtually in 2022. So I believe in that March, April timeframe, there will be a series of days where you can plug into that boot camp, and it's $100 per participant. So pretty affordable way for board members and staff to get a very robust training on community foundations. I think it's also very helpful that while you can learn from so many great foundations within our network, you'll be able to network with those that work across the state as well. So if you're looking for additional training opportunity, that'll be available to you in 2022. Just keep your eyes on that affiliate link. Rebecca, did I miss anything?
I would just mention that training is over the lunch hour. That's the only time they meet is over the lunch hour. And I think it's like a 2-week span. So it's really easy also to integrate into anyone's schedule. Hopefully, you know, it's not going to take away from their work or from other things that they're doing. So.
Thanks, Rebecca. Great. Well, I want to introduce to you, if you do not know her yet, but Sarah Bonney is with us today. Sarah serves as the Chief Marketing Officer. She's been on the team now for just over 8 years, I believe. And Sarah and her team ensure that we are getting the right story shared with our stakeholders here in Des Moines and across the state. They do incredibly important work for us. And so I appreciate all they do. And Sarah recently shared with our charitable giving team a study they had done based on some Google Analytics, and she'll explain all this. But basically ensuring that the words that we're using are connecting with the right people through our social media and website platforms. And why I thought I invite her here today is I thought the data that she shared would be very applicable to what all you are doing I think especially with Rebecca's leadership and support, we're seeing a lot more of our affiliate partners update websites, update collateral, be more active in the social media space. And so if we can bring some better data along with that, help you do your work better, we're gonna do better for all of us. So Sarah, I'll turn it over to you and she'll share some data, but I also would invite you if you have any other marketing questions, Sarah Bonnie is your gal to answer them. So Sarah, you're up.
Or at least get you to the right person. So please stop me at any point and ask questions. I am so excited to be here. I don't get to see our affiliate friends as often as I would like. And I always get Google alerts to my inbox when you guys announce grants. And it's my favorite part to see what you're doing across the state. It's so inspiring. So thank you for all you do. And very selfishly, I have my affiliate mug with me today, because as a former Iowa Falls resident, I try to represent Hardin County as much as I can. So there you go, Tam. I've got my mug with me. All right, so let's jump in here. I'm going to share my screen, so bear with me as I try to navigate the technology. There we are. Can you see my PowerPoint okay? Looks good. Okay, good. So we work with a company called Blue Compass. Blue Compass created our website for us, and we continue to use them as what we would call our content management system. We have seen such an increase in traffic to our website that in 2019 we redesigned that. And thank you to all of you who helped Rebecca in getting information so that we can keep your web pages updated on that site, and the interactive map that we're so proud to be able to offer as well, so people can connect with the counties and communities that they care about. I've never been more thankful that we got a project done as the website, because in 2020, certainly, as you know, everything moved digital. And we have known that our website was the front porch of the community foundation, but that really rang true throughout 2020. We just had record-breaking traffic to the website. So we knew people were going there for information. We knew that we had a good technical system in place where we could change information out or provide the ability to meet needs or interests. And so the next step was then to create a search engine optimization research project with our friends at Blue Compass. We wanted to make sure that the content our website provided matches what people are looking for. So as people are putting different search terms into Google, we wanted to analyze to make sure that we were answering those questions or providing the information that was important to them, not necessarily just the information that was important for us to share. So I'm going to throw a lot at you here, but the first slide is an overview of what we found. First two slides are an overview of what we found, but we'll concentrate really on the third slide, which is a focused top 10 list of the questions that people are asking and that we want to be able to answer. So the way that this research is done is we gave Blue Compass the pages of our website we wanted to analyze and what the goals of those pages are. So we concentrated on our charitable giving pages. We wanted to know what people are looking for when they're considering charitable giving options, when they're considering giving back. We know nonprofits are going to find us. The nature of a grant-making institution, as you know, they're usually pretty well connected, but it was the charitable giving piece we were looking for. And so that's where we concentrated our research. Now, they use a back office research system where they are combing thousands and thousands and thousands of search terms. So what you see on the screen in front of you is just some examples of terms that they think have the opportunity to perform best for us. So you'll notice that there's a keyword, and then you'll see the monthly search volume. So we try to play a game with Google where we're using terms within the copy of our website that isn't, if you look at donor advised funds with 12,000, that's going to be hard for us to compete with in the Googleverse, because the for-profit providers can pay to play, whereas we don't necessarily have the budget to do that. So we need to be more strategic, and we need to look at things like Iowa donor advised funds, or a way that we can better get in the marketplace the online marketplace. Does that make sense? That's a lot of inside baseball that I'm trying to talk through relatively quickly. Okay. So a few things that I want to point out to you without getting too far into the weeds, and we can send all of this out after today's meeting if you want to spend more time with it. My team makes fun of me a lot because I could nerd out over this data for hours and hours and hours, but I don't. Joe only gave me 20 minutes, so I got to go fast. But one thing that we had discussed with our marketing committee here is, and this was a decade ago, was should we use the word philanthropy or should we use charitable giving? And the marketing committee landed on charitable giving. Philanthropy tested to be a really hard word to understand for a lot of people. And I'm excited to see that that research continues to play out. Charitable giving is the right term to use. It's far more successful than philanthropic, but we still need to incorporate that word into the work we do. But just one thing to note there. We did some research, as I mentioned, specifically around philanthropy to make sure that we were still on mark with that term we were using. They also did some work around milestone events. What we were getting at with that particular area of research, we know that so many people come to us to open a charitable giving fund at some turning point in their life, a milestone moment. And so we were trying to determine what are the most common search terms, what are the most common milestone moments. So tax benefits continues to perform really, really well. We all know that there's the emotional component to giving, but when it comes to this specific type of work, tax benefits continues to be a lead. Retirement giving, huge, huge opportunity. And then another piece of research that was on the previous slide, a lot of questions about how do you determine what charity to give to, which I think is exciting for us as a community foundation field, because we have that unique opportunity to know a lot about the tax-wise giving strategies, but to also know about the opportunities to give within the community. So as we're developing content, that's a really natural fit for us. So we have all this data. What do we do with it? Becomes the next question. How do we activate it? And it really comes down to the fact that we as community foundations are solution providers. People have, whether it's a tax scenario or it's an instance where they're trying to learn more about charities, they are looking to answer questions. What this search engine optimization research tells us, what are the most popular questions that we can answer? So here you'll see our top 10 list. Of course, our name is just something that we need to know. It needs to be incorporated throughout to help us. So really you're focusing on 3 through 10 in your content solutions that we're providing. So what this means to me and to my team is, as we're developing videos, as we're developing articles, as we're pushing things out on social media, and as we're developing content for the website, these are the places where we can really answer people's questions. You know, oftentimes in marketing, we really wish we were mind readers. We want to know what people are thinking. We want to know when people make that decision-making process about working with us. And through the power of technology, we get a little inside scoop on what people are thinking. So as we continue to work with Rebecca and the great job that she does, in helping to provide you with resources, this is really where we want to focus our content development. We want to be able to produce pieces for you that you can customize that are going to help you to answer these questions for people in your community who are looking for information and then get connected with you. Of course, nonprofits in Des Moines is on here, but that's just because we completed the research. What the overall research project tells us is that anytime you can localize that content, the better it's going to be performing. So it could be nonprofits in Marshalltown or Iowa Falls, or, you know, pick your county name. That's what matters most there. So with that, that's a lot of information to throw at you really, really quickly. Joe, Rebecca, you've heard my spiel a couple times before. Is there anything you would add or anything you'd clarify? And I'm happy to give a few examples of the way we're doing this work or implementing it already, if that's helpful.
Yeah, sure. How about we stop sharing your screen for now so we can see everybody, and we'll get this slide deck out to the team. But I would be curious what you just said. What would be a very simple way to start using what we just learned into what these folks are doing?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the pieces of advice that I've often heard when it comes to content marketing, and it keeps proving out time and time again, is simplifying the message. And we are so in the weeds of the work sometimes that we want to talk about the difference between a designated fund and an agency fund or whatever that might be. But for the general public, they're looking for a higher base of knowledge. So I look at the search term, what is charitable giving? We could all write a top 10 list of what charitable giving is within a few minutes and post that to our web pages or to social media accounts. And we're already answering a question for the public. So when they're Googling that information, they come to us as a trusted expert, which is great. One of the fun things that we've been able to do here at the Community Foundation is our video work. And so, for example, Joe and Christy Nouse just finished a video on Keep Iowa Growing that went out this week. And so one thing that we're doing in relation to this research is we timed that with an article, year-end giving for farmers, so that we're giving that content in different ways, but we're keeping the same message. So if you're looking for, I keep looking at my list here, but tax exemptions or retirement planning, we're answering those questions with our tools and making it throughout all of our channels. So trying to be a bit more consistent with that message.
So Sarah, two questions. One, would you suggest that groups would maybe kind of audit their current web pages to see if some of these terms are on there? Would that be a good thing to do?
Yeah, absolutely. It would sure be something to consider and something to look at. That's what our team's going to be working on in early 2022 with our website. So I don't mean to say it's not important, because it absolutely is, and we want to be driving people to that website. But for me, the first step, or maybe the easiest win, is how it shapes our content that we create. Your time is so valuable as you're thinking about how you spend your hours in your day. If we can really get you information to hone in on what's most important to be talking about when you do have the opportunity to write a piece or create a social media post, I think that's the biggest benefit right now, is to be able to answer the questions that people have when you have so many things you could talk about.
So then my follow-up question is, I haven't asked you this before. A lot of our groups will speak at, I think Tam's probably on the civic group circuit right now, speaking to Rotary and Kiwanis, et cetera. Is using these terms in the spoken word, does that also relate well to people, or is this just through like what people are Googling?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the general themes that we see here are highly transferable to the other things you do. And so I guess that's probably the biggest takeaway from today. And I apologize that I didn't say it more directly. These are themes to carry out throughout a variety of areas of your work. So we might look to put charitable giving on our website more often, but what we really want the takeaway to be is that people are looking for, what is charitable giving? What can you provide me related to charitable giving? How does that provide tax benefits? So to your example, absolutely, these are great things to think about as you're preparing to go in front of the Rotary Club or Lions Club to present, because you generally know these are questions people are asking that you can answer, and it's really not changing anything. This is, you guys know this back and front and could answer it in a heartbeat. It's maybe just a way to organize your thoughts around being that solution provider for what people are thinking about. And it's not all inclusive. I think about Keep Iowa Growing. We lifted that up as an example. Keep Iowa Growing wasn't a specific search term we tested. So we can still talk about Keep Iowa Growing as a program and an opportunity, but we know we want to frame it within retirement planning or tax planning, because those terms perform well. Those are questions people are asking. So I don't share this to say you've got to change everything you're doing. That's not at all the case. It's just probably just thinking about framing and organizing.
That's a good point. Other questions or comments from the attendees today?
So I have a question, Sarah, and I am not a marketing person. I maybe didn't do very well in that in college, so that was not my career. But so putting these words on your website will drive the Google searches to you. Okay.
Correct. So
Okay.
Google, the Google bots will comb your website to see if your content matches what people are searching for on their site. And then they will move you up in the search rankings once they determine how helpful you are to their users, because Google wants to make money. And so they want to make sure that people keep using their website. So yes, what this is essentially looking at is how do we make the Google bots happy, and how do we make sure that we continue to rank highly there?
It's so fascinating. I mean, if you just step back and just consider what's going on. But
Joe?
it's pretty, yeah, Rand, go ahead.
I might have another question for Sarah.
Yeah.
And it might be how these folks, or what you would advise relative to them monitoring their status and what happens when somebody simply Googles Marshall County or Hardin County or Iowa Falls. Oftentimes those are occasions where a Chamber of Commerce or the Board of Supervisors or things like that will come up. And I'm just wondering if you had any guidance related to, obviously they want to connect with people that are thinking generally about their county and the communities they serve.
Yeah, good question, Rand. I would err on the side of, we have an opportunity to meet people on some of those more specific things. We didn't do a lot of work around our community leadership and testing what phrases perform well there. So in those, I just don't have the data to point to say, here's how you compete on the search rankings with your chambers and with those other groups. One thing that is always really powerful and helpful, because absolutely you want to be seen as a player with those other groups, and you're already all so friendly with them, think about how you can work with them to place content on their site. So for example, the Greater Des Moines Partnership, who's our equivalent of the chamber here in Des Moines, they have a section related to charitable giving, and they have links back to our website. So I would maybe take that tactic as opposed to trying to fight the Google fight there. I think you'd see higher returns on the partnership. Bob put a question in the chat, which I think is a really good question. And so I want to present it to the whole group, if that's okay, Bob. He asked about an example of one of these key phrases being used on our site. Yes, absolutely. So if you go to even just our headers on our website, you're going to notice that we tried to answer the questions in our headers. So, and this was before the research, so we had some changes to make in early 2022. But ways to give, that's one of our headers on the website. Giving services, things like that. We were trying to answer questions, even in the way we organized information, our funds, as opposed to listing all the specific funds. So those are some examples, but more to come within the new year when we have a little bit more time to concentrate on making revisions based on this hard and fast research we have.
Great dialogue.
Hey,
Anything else for Sarah? Yeah, go ahead, Jane.
This may be for another day, but I'm, what drives donors? We should know more about what drives donors to work with the community foundation in the first place. So there are lots of choices. And if you want to give to a particular charity, there's no reason to use us as an intermediary. So how do you, beyond if a person or a family is at the point where they understand setting up a fund or a donor advised fund, and that they have that knowledge already. But how do you move from the transactional to the value add of a foundation? That's kind of a philosophical, but what have we learned so far? And like I said, that may be for another day, Sarah, because what you're telling us today is really quite tactical and great. That's why we're here. But yeah, I kind of struggle with what do we know about helping people make use or at least have interest in learning more about the value add of a foundation.
Yeah, that I agree, Jane. I think that could be a whole nother session. Real quickly, one of the things that we will always sell as our value add is our community leadership work. You could work with a Fidelity, a Schwab, but you work with us because you're part of these community projects that you would want to be if you knew about them, or you would want to be if you had the ability to. So we will always lead with community leadership and grant making for that value add. Joe, I don't know if there's anything in the new referral report you would potentially share that we're doing with some of the direct, because we're trying to glean more of that information, Jane, about how did you hear about us? How did you come to make that final decision or that tipping point? Because it is such a marathon process as we work with fund holders or potentially opening funds. So, I want to come back and we can talk about it more.
Well, because it's a good question, Jane. And Sarah, I want to look at the referral report a little bit more. So I think it's a great future Peloton topic to discuss once we get a little bit more data around it, rather than just trying to answer with a lot of anecdotes. Anecdotally though, Jane, in conversation with fund holders, I have more often heard, thanks for meeting with me today. I was on your website last night. Folks are taking time to do their homework on our website prior to sitting down to having the conversation. And so just to kind of wrap things up, making sure your website is current, presentable, and useful for the donor is an extremely important part of the sales process in terms of engaging new donors or fund holders. I have just heard that more often, and that is folks of all different demographics and age ranges. Great. Well, if there's anything else for Sarah, Sarah's going to provide us a copy of the PowerPoint. We will share that with the group, as well as maybe a couple examples of where to get started. But you all know that this is ongoing, and so make sure you're leaning on Rebecca and myself to how do you implement this. So Sarah, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. Have a good Halloween this weekend.